Okay, so we are ready to move forward and start creating our outline for our business letter. This is going to be broken up into a couple of videos, and you need to make sure you have your spiral in front of you on page 14. You also need to have this worksheet in front of you, your persuasive planning page, and let's go ahead and number these questions 1 through 5 right above your address, because I'm going to be referring to these questions throughout this video for the outline. So I'm going to be using my United letter, my United example of losing the baggage as I'm creating my outline. Some of these things are not going to fit yours, but I'll talk you through what you should be putting there instead if what I'm writing doesn't fit yours. So we're going to start out with Roman numeral 1. So come over to the top line, pink margin on the left, and that's a capital I for Roman numeral 1. And that will be the introduction. We talked about that yesterday. You must start your letter with an introduction. And there's going to be a couple of parts to that. So the details underneath we always indent. And since we are just at the Roman numeral, we're going to go to capital letters. So you'll be doing a greeting where you tell who you are. Just telling them hello. And then another piece of detail for your introduction is going to be explaining the assignment. So you can copy this part exactly the same as mine, because I'm setting it up from the student perspective. So several details we're going to include underneath this part for the introduction paragraph. Will all be from the student perspective. I need you to indent, since we just did Roman numeral and then we indented for capital letters. We're now indenting for numerals again, so regular numbers. So number 1, you're going to explain that you're a 6th grader. In ELA, English Lang Arts. 2, you're going to tell that you're from Carmody. 3, you're going to say that Mrs. Hartman is teaching now. Because I had to carry that onto the second line, remember I told you with friendly letters you just line the next part up right underneath where you were just writing. So Mrs. Hartman is teaching persuasive business letters, and that's Mrs. Hartman and Miss Janice for 2 of my classes, and Miss Clerman, of course, too, on Wednesdays and Thursdays. All right, and our last detail is going to be to say I chose you. I chose to write to you. And I'm actually going to already jump into a couple of details from our worksheet. So on question number 4, remember we talked about saying things that you like about the company. I want you to look there for your details right here. So I'm going to include 2 details. So because I'm having more details underneath a number, we indent, and now since we did capital letters here, numbers, remember we alternate. Now we go to lowercase letters. So the first thing I'm going to say that's a positive, I'm going to put a plus sign to make it short, is I'm going to put credit card mileage. Now that doesn't fit any of your letters, so you need to think of something that you like about them. You may not have 2 things. Okay, I have 2 things. Personally, I think if you don't have a second thing to put, this would be super helpful, and you could copy this B from me. I'm going to compliment them and say you listen to customers. And why that would be really smart is because I'm giving them a compliment about something I want them to do with this letter. I really want them to listen to me, so let's compliment them and presume that they're going to listen. So you listen to customers is another positive thing. So I'm going to put a little plus sign there for positive. All right, so my introduction plan is finished. That's all you need to put for your introduction. And we've, like I said, we've already gone into a couple of details from our worksheet here, and we'll continue to do that. So now we're going to move into the second paragraph. I'm going to skip a line and go back over to the margin, and I'm lining up the Roman numeral number 2 straight below Roman numeral number 1. Remember, the lining up is super important. And this is going to be our personal connection paragraph. Personal connection. This is where you're really going to be focusing on questions 3 and 2. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with question 3. What's my history with this company like? What's my connection to them? Mine is that I've been a customer since I was little. Yours might be that every birthday you've gone there. Maybe you go every week. Maybe it's something that you found recently, but you are just in love with the place. What is your history with this company? And then 2 is going to be the specific thing that made me want to write to them, which is going to be kind of another part of my story. So personal connection for my A is going to be I'm a United customer. And just to make it short and sweet, I'm going to say for 48 years. I have a lot more details I could add, but I'm just going to make it short and sweet by saying it that way, and I might add more details in my letter. For the second part, so that would be really covering this part, question number 3. So think about your question number 3 and do that for A. So for B, we're going to that question number 2. Why did you specifically write to them? Was there a specific thing that happened? What came to mind? What made you want to write to them today? So you're really looking at that question number 2 as you fill this in. For my question number 2, it was that 12/27/18 DIA2 ANC flight. This was my details about my flight, and they'll understand all of this. And then I'm just going to say lost suitcase. So I want them to know this happened on December 28th, just, a month ago. And it was from Denver to Anchorage, and that they lost my suitcase. I'm going to put that there just to hold the weight down because my page keeps curling up. All right. So I have some details I really want to add underneath my B. So I'm getting really detailed about question number 2. Even though my worksheet didn't have a lot of details, I want you to try and think through some of those details right now. So for instance, I am going to say that the Anchorage workers helpful. It's not a complete sentence. It's not supposed to be. And then I'm going to say care package. So they gave me a water bottle with a toothbrush and toothpaste, and I'll include that in my letter. So they were great. They were helpful, and they gave me a care package. And then I'm also going to add claim. They helped me file my claim. So there's actually, you have to file a claim to actually put a search out for your luggage. All right, so then next I want to talk about, with my story, having paid $120 in baggage fees. And then I'm going to put a little 30 times 2 round trip, to remind myself for my letter that I can include that. So that's a lot of money to spend and then have your suitcase lost. For number 3, I'm going to put inconvenient and then I'm going to put Fred Meyer's. So we ended up having to take a separate trip to Fred Meyer's to purchase some things that we needed. And I'll put more of this in my call to action when I ask for specific dollar amount. But I want to put that I had to go to Fred Meyer's store to purchase things that we couldn't be without for any long period of time. And you'll hear more about those in my next part of my letter. So again, I'm still focusing on my details for that question number 2. And you may not have as many details, but I did. So my last one is, I'm going to say bumpy suitcase return, and that'll just be a hint to me, and I'll know what that means when I'm moving forward, that this is going to mean that I was supposed to get it at a certain time, and then I was supposed to get it at another certain time, and then finally it came at a third time, far later than I had expected, almost 24 hours later. we'll say 3 times 24 hours. All right. So then I'm pretty much finished up with my personal connection piece. So at this point, I really want you to take the time to think, okay, so for my question 3, what did I put for A? Because that's really where your question 3 is. And maybe I can write that in another color. Let me grab a red. So I want to make it really clear. So your question 4 was up here for your worksheet. Okay, for question 3, it was right here. Question number 3 from the worksheet. And then for question number 2, it was B. So I really want you to think about that and make sure you've added everything that you need to add detail-wise. Take a moment to do that. All right, so then we go on to Roman numeral 3. And this is our 3rd paragraph. And this is our call to action. Okay, this is where we're really going to ask them for that, what we need for them to fix. So this is all going to come from question number 5. We might as well put that in now. Question number 5 from that worksheet. So make sure you're looking at that right here on your worksheet. What did you want to ask them to do? So the first thing I wanted them to do, that's going to be A, and remember you always line up those capital letters in your outline, is organization. And I'm going to put construction. It was chaos and training. Because the young man that helped us was very uncertain of what he should be doing, but the lady next to us knew what she was doing. So I'm going to put consistent next to that, and that's going to remind me what I'm talking about, that they have some employees that know what they're doing and some that don't. This is when I predicted, right here is when I predicted we would lose our luggage because of how he was acting. So going on to more of my call to action, I specifically was asking for a reimbursement of my baggage fees. So I want to, and I really want to be reimbursed for what we had to go buy at the store too. So I'm going to put reimbursement, and what reimbursement means is pay me back for what I spent. Okay, so reimbursement, I'm going to list baggage fees, which I've already talked about above, so I'm not going to have to list any dollar amounts. And then for 2, I'm going to put $45. And I am going to do 2 details underneath that. So just like I did up here, you can see the lowercase a and b when I had to go into more detail. I'm going to do that here. So my reimbursements there are going to be contact, solution, and cases times 2, and sweatpants. My daughter had nothing she could sleep in or hang out in the next day, other than, you know, the clothes she'd worn all day to travel. So look at this area right here. Really make sure you've got everything covered from number 5, and be detailed, because it's going to help you a lot as you're writing your business letter, but you already have notes written down here. So take a second to make sure you have everything you want from number 5 right here. And I guess since we're speaking about questions from the worksheet, really number 1 is going to be, it's going to be mentioned in the salutation when you say who you're writing to, and in the inside address. So we don't really have to put number 1 on here. Our final paragraph is going to be our conclusion paragraph. So I want to come down and go back over to the margin on the left, and again we're lining up those Roman numerals like we always line up each thing as we're organizing this outline, each section. So these are 4 paragraphs. This is our final paragraph, so this will be conclusion. You always want to wrap it up with a conclusion. Okay, so my A for that is going to be to, I have a couple of details I'm thinking about. I'm just pausing and thinking through this. I want to be positive, so I'm going to thank them for all they do right. They do, and they do a lot of things right. This one was a mess up, but I want to thank them for that. And then I want to go into another detail, so B, and this one's going to be to ask them to please write back with details on reimbursement. So that call to action, just kind of a tiny reminder about that call to action. So you might want to mention in your conclusion details. I definitely want you to mention that you want them to write back, but if you're asking for a specific thing, you might want that to be one of your details here as well. Just a little reminder, a tiny little one about your call to action. And then a positive closing on it, that I'm confident they'll help me continue to be a loyal customer, loyal, happy customer. So we're not done at that point. We're close. We have all 4 of our paragraphs planned out. What we don't have is one essential piece. We talked about our personal connection, we talked about our call to action, but we're missing our facts. So I didn't want to put the facts in until we had kind of the layout of how it's going to all look. Our introduction, what's our backstory, our personal connection, what are we asking for, and then concluding it up. Now looking at our facts, which is on the back of our worksheet, of course, we're picking what's going to make the most sense here. And United really prides themselves in doing things right and being friendly and helping customers. So I felt like that was a very appropriate thing to include as one of my facts. I'm not going to use all my facts. I'm going to include at least 2. I must have at least 2 in my letter. We can have more. But I decided that my most appropriate place to put that purpose and values is going to be right here at the beginning of this call to action. So I'm putting a little star here, and I'm putting kind of an insert, and I'm just going to say purpose and values. Facts. And then C, worksheet. I want you to star it. I want you to make it obvious, because this is something that you're not going to be able to write straight from the outline. You're not putting enough detail in here for it, but you'll be able to go, oh yeah, this is where I need to go over here. You can get those details. I'll write out their mission statement at the beginning of that paragraph and how they say they fly right, friendly, together, and above and beyond, and remind them of that wonderful mission statement. And then I looked at my other facts, and I decided that the next one that was my wow fact was going to be about what I learned in my research about the Department of Transportation mandate that they reimburse for lost luggage. You are obviously going to have different facts than that. You may have a very similar fact to this, where you found their mission statement, or maybe you're going to put in there about how you researched and found out when they were founded, what location they were founded, and you might decide you want to put that up here instead. You're going to pick what you think is the most appropriate. We'll pause here so you have time to think through that. But for my last research fact that I want to include, it makes more sense to me, since I'm talking about reimbursement here, to put it here, because it's talking about how DOT mandates that they reimburse when they lose luggage. And I'm going to include that fact, so I'm going to put DOT mandates facts. And again, I'm going to say C, worksheet. So I'm going to have to refer to that worksheet when I'm writing my letter out, and that's perfectly okay. I need to see 2 big, like dark stars on your outline that you've indicated where you're going to put at least 2 facts. If you have 3 facts that you think are going to be really powerful, just choose, looking at your organized outline, what's going to be the most appropriate placement for those. So take some time to do that right now. And if you feel like you're running out of space as we do this, and you need a page extender for page 14, let me know and we'll do that. If you need to back up on this video at all and re-listen to it, just ask me and I will let you have a headset and grab a Chromebook. And while other students are working on other things, you could back up to the part where you need to re-listen and work on that. All right, great job. Excited to go to the next step.